This is part one of a 5-part series. So one of the easiest ways I know to come across the subject-object split is to just simply look at your hand. It's pretty easy. You look at your hand, you can flex your hand, you can open your hand wide, you can turn it so the palm is facing up, you can turn it so the palm is facing down. There's a whole huge range of motions, pointing your finger, touching your nose, whatever you want to do with your hand. It seems like you can do whatever you want to do. The point is there's a you who wants to do things, and there's a hand that can do the things. It seems like the you who is deciding what to do with the hands is different than the hand itself. It seems like I have control over my hand. It's just the fact that I call it my hand. There has to be an I who owns the hand, whose hand it is. And indeed, it is your hand. It's not anybody else's hand. Nobody has that hand except you. You have that hand. And only you can have an experience of that hand. That hand is your hand. This hand is my hand. Kind of like that song. This land is your land. This hand is my hand. But that's the thing. You're looking at your hand. It seems like you can do whatever you want with your hand. You can't necessarily make your blood circulate through your hand. You can't oxygenate each cell with oxygen that's carried by the red blood cells. You don't have that kind of control. But we tend to ignore that and still feel like it's my hand. I have control of my hand. This I is what I would call the subject. You're having a subjective experience. It's your own experience. There's no one else in the world who can have your experience, who can look at your hand through your eyes, who can open and close your hand that way. Somebody, I guess, theoretically could point a gun at your head and say, I want you to open and close your hand right now. But still, in the end, it's you doing that. You're doing that because, well, why not? I mean, who would rather get shot in the head than open and close your hand? Sorry for such weird examples, but I like to make things extreme, to make them clear. It's your hand. There's no one else who can, well, so as somebody once said, nobody can fart your farts. It's really you. You're the only one. So I hope by now you've put your hand down. You can look around. You're in whatever environment you're in. You can look. You can listen for sounds. You can see and hear different things. The different objects in your environment might be cars if you're driving, street signs, street lights. If you're home, there's the things in the room that you're in. Maybe something's hanging on the wall, blah, blah, blah. You get the idea. So you're surrounded by the objects of the world. And in a very important way, you are one of the objects yourself. You are one of the things in the world. So your subjective experience not only includes observing all the objects around, it also includes observing yourself. You are an object in the world that is having a subjective experience. I'll say that again. You are an object in the world having a subjective experience. Or you can flip it around. You can say you are a subjective experience taking place in an object called a human body. As a subject, you are happy, sad, maybe you're angry, perhaps withdrawn, perhaps feeling friendly, maybe looking forward to something. You have daydreams, you can imagine, plan, evaluate. As an object, your body follows the laws of gravity. It has a certain mass. It functions in particular ways. It can move around or stay relatively still. It can be seen by other creatures. Hopefully, if they're walking nearby, they don't step on your toe. The self-aware human being is split between being an object who can have a toe stepped on and a subject who can feel the pain of a toe being stepped on. This split is so important to me that I want to address it in a 5-part series. The split itself, how the split happens, is what I want to talk about today. Hello and welcome to the 10 Crutches podcast. My name is David. I'm glad you're here. Where does this split come from? How does this split arise? Why do we experience life as a subject seemingly independent from the object of our body? And why are we not able to bring the two together and live as the single being we actually are? In a very profound way, there isn't any split at all. We are single creatures. We are single beings. The first thing to realize is that we are not born fully human. This is all my opinion, by the way. A newborn infant cannot use language, cannot make an agreement with someone, cannot talk or think about the existential issues humans face, cannot understand the stories we tell ourselves about time and money and place. A newborn infant can't even make a reservation at a restaurant. So infants have the potential to grow into human, but are not yet, in my book anyway. They are not fully human. If you have human parents, if you are raised in a human society, somewhere between the ages of 2 and 5, the defining characteristics of a human being will develop. The infant transforms from what we might call pre-human into human. An essential mark of this change, I think one of the main marks of being human, is self-awareness. It's the development of self-awareness because yourself becomes aware of yourself being yourself. The thing that makes you aware of yourself is that you, at the same time, become aware of other, of the not-self. There is a me, and all the rest of the world is not me. The I, the self, is affirmed, and the not-self is recognized as a not me. The parent who says it's time to go to sleep and hears a no is hearing the development of the human self, the ability to distinguish between the self and what it wants and the not-self and what it doesn't want. This is often called the terrible twos, but it's important to remember that this is an amazing miracle, in addition to occasionally being a real pain in the ass. The affirming subjective self has the distinct experience of I exist. The subjective self is active and pointing at either itself or other and is asserting its own separate existence. But the important thing that happens is that there's an automatic problem that arises when you affirm your own experience, when you become aware of your own experience. The self becomes the affirmer, becomes the one who's saying, I am here, this is my experience. So the subjective self is doing the affirming at the same time that it's an object, it's a body, it's being affirmed. I am me. There's no way to have the I without also having the me. That's where the split comes. The affirmer cannot arise without the affirmed. They co-arise and coexist. These two aspects of our single being co-arise and coexist with self-awareness. I remember once being on a beach, standing in the water. This was the ocean, up to my neck. A cross current came, and it literally picked up my body and carried me around 50 feet parallel to the shore, and it just plopped me back down. The distinction was very clear between my subject, aware of this whole event, somewhat nervous, feeling out of control, and then there was my objective body, which was being carried along like a piece of driftwood. Our subjectivity is what gives us our freedom, our ideas about freedom. We can think and feel decide, plan, fantasize, imagine different futures, invent things, create, make art. We can love, we can make love, we can have compassion, have friendships, teach others, learn from others. Our subjectivity makes us amazing. But as an individual subject, it can be a mixed bag. We can identify many objects in the world and transcend any of them. We can transcend all of them if we take them one by one. And by transcend, I don't mean anything mystical. I just mean we can recognize that this particular object, the pencil in our hand, the new car we just bought, the apartment we're moving into, whatever the object is, whatever the thing is that you identify, you can realize that your subjective experience is separate from it, that you as an experiencer have identified it and are considering it, are liking it, not liking it, wanting it, changing it. You're always in relation to it, but that separation, it's that distance that keeps you in a way at arm's length from everything. I can free myself from any particular object, but I cannot free myself from being a subject who needs to perceive an object in order to be a subject. I'll say that again. I can free myself from any particular object, but I cannot free myself from being a subject who needs to perceive an object. We are subjects because we perceive objects. But then this creates a situation where, by existing as a subject, I can never, quote, have myself. I can never, quote, be at one with myself. I can never experience completeness. If I turn to myself to look within, to try to see myself, whatever I glimpse is just another object. The object I perceive may be a thought, it may be a feeling, a sensation, a perception, but the whole being that I am, the single being that I am, recedes from my subject in an infinite regress. It's kind of like being a camera unable to take a picture of itself. If a camera has a mirror, it can then take a picture of its reflection. I think we're like that. We are unable to meet ourselves directly. Each time we reach out as a subject, we can only hold an object aspect of our being. You can take a picture of your reflection, but you can't actually take a picture of yourself. This is what I'm saying is like being a subject, having an eye, and not being able to turn around and actually complete yourself. You're always looking at either your internal world or your external world. But this eye, this kind of flickering eye that keeps changing in a way, but somehow still keeps feeling the same. It feels like there's some continuity. The experience of being ununified is an experience of lack. It's as if there's something missing, and of course there's something missing. The experience of being a unified being is missing. But like I said, you can't actually arrange for it any more than you can arrange for your pituitary gland to release more growth hormone. As a human, you're not really making your own heartbeat time after time for all these years. You're not really breathing your own breaths most of the time, certainly not when you're asleep. The subject inside of me sure feels like it's in charge, but it's not clear how much of that is actually true. So, this leaves us at the same time clearly a part of the world and yet cut off from the world. We can relate to any object, any idea, any event, but we can never really be unified with anything. We are always separate from it. Anything we have at the same time, we don't really have at all. This can lead to a deep feeling that no matter what, no matter the circumstance, no matter who or where or when we are incomplete, unable to fulfill ourselves except by temporary fixes. So the question arises, what do you do? What do you do with this split? And the very simple answer is, you don't do anything. You can't do anything. If you're a subject really feeling the effects of this split, really feeling the isolation, the separation, really wanting to overcome it, what can you do? Nothing. You can't do anything. That has to become okay. And that's part of what this whole series is about. How do you let that be okay? Because you as a subject, you don't actually have a problem. You think you have a problem. You're carrying the problem. You're like carrying a flag. I have a problem. I have a problem. I'm like, you're like that camera. Does a camera have a problem? A camera that can't take a picture is like, oh my God, I can't take a picture of myself. No, it's not. The camera doesn't have a problem. You don't have a problem, but it feels like you have a problem. It feels like, I feel like, I definitely feel like I have a problem. But what is it? So this series is trying to think through what is the reality of this situation. Since we feel like there's a problem, let's come up with a name for it. Only for the sake of naming the problem, let's say the problem is the immature functioning of self-awareness, an immature functioning that simply needs to mature. Let's say the problem comes from being a subject who experiences the lack of unity as a problem to be solved. The most important idea to remember in this regard is that what seems like a huge problem is, at bottom, nothing to solve. I believe this maturing process can begin to happen when all the false starts, all the places where we look to solve the problem, can be seen for what they actually are. Because there's so many false starts, there's so many attempts to fix it that just don't work out. And if you start to think it through, you can realize, your intelligence can realize, no matter what the circumstances, no matter what objects you see, whether they're outside you or inside you, any of the objects that you experience as a subject are just simply going to be that. And we need to somehow find a way to get more mature. I don't know how to say it, but how do we ripen? How do we allow ourselves to transform? But meanwhile, this problem that doesn't need to be solved is really bugging most people most of the time. I know it bothers the hell out of me. You can see how bothered people are, how frantic we get as individuals and as a society. Look at how aggressive and destructive humans can get. Look at how greedy people can get. Look how profoundly we can ignore our neighbors, fail to love them, fail to help them get what they might need to live good lives. This problem is so profoundly rooted in our psyches and our culture. It's in the very fabric of our society itself. I thought it was worthwhile to go into all the ways we try to solve this problem that have no way of working. That's parts 2 and 3 and 4 in a way. So when I get to part 5, just to let you know right from the start, right here, it's not that I have any solution to all this. I hope you don't think some weird guy making a podcast in his bedroom is going to clear up some fundamental human problem. But I do think this series overall has some good food for thought, and I hope it helps someone out there. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time. Please visit the home of the 10 Crutches podcast at 10crutches.link. That's 10crutches.link. The book that inspired the podcast, a book I wrote called 10 Crutches for Walking in the Present, is available for free download on the website. While you are there, please take advantage of 2 ways to contact me. You can send me an email, or you can make a voice recording. If you have a great question, I may be able to use it for the podcast. Also on the website, You can visit the archive to hear any published episode and see show notes for any and every show. Thanks so much for listening. And once again, thanks so much for listening. And I won't say it once again. See you next time.